Job is a story that seeks to answer a question that I think a lot of us are familiar with, a question that a lot of us might have asked at some point in the past. And this question is this: why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? Now, as we noted in the text, there are two positions represented, Job and Job's friends, that are both incorrect in their own ways, and we'll look at them. We'll start off with Job's friends. Job's friends, they're clearly in the wrong. And this is what God says about Job's friends. He says, "My anger burns against you and your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has." So they're very clearly in the wrong in representing who God is and what God's like. What's the issue here? Well, their issue is that they think they understand everything that God does, and they understand why God does it. They've reduced God into something like a machine. If you do X, God will give you Y. They've put God into a box of sort, and in doing so, God has become less than God. Other religions, right, like Hinduism and Buddhism, both operate on this kind of a logic as well. If you suffer in this life, it's either because of something you've done in this life, in the past, or something you've done in a previous life, right? The universe acts in a very mechanistic kind of a way. And when we think about our own spiritual lives, we actually do this as well. I'm having a bad day. Things are not going well today. It must be because I didn't pray hard enough this morning. I didn't do my QT. I rushed through, or I didn't do it at all. Things go well. It must be because God is blessing me for some good thing that I've done. He's rewarding me for my service. Or if we've been good and something doesn't go our way, we say, I've been serving God. I've been doing my devotions. I've been going to church. Why is God not blessing me and giving me the things that I need, the things that I want? We're thinking God less as a person, more as a machine, more as a genie, basically someone who does what we want him to do, and in doing so, we think of God wrongly. So that's the first position. The second position, Job's position, is that he has done nothing wrong. God must give an account. Now, technically speaking, Job's response, at least the first part, is not incorrect, right? Job did not suffer because he sinned, nor did he curse God in his difficulties, nor did he sin. He remained faithful in this way. And even God acknowledges this in chapter 42, as we've just seen. But it's the second part where Job goes off, right? When he demands that God must give him an account, right? Throughout the book, we see Job feels entitled to an answer from God. He's convinced that he has been wronged and that God must show up and explain himself to him. And then what happens in the story? Well, God shows up. God finally appears in a whirlwind, in power, in majesty, and in fury. And he responds to God by saying, basically, "Who are you to ask this of me?" And then he goes on to ask Job a series of questions. Do you know all the things that I know? Can you do the things that I do? Did you make the universe and everything in it? Do you know all the animals and why they do all the things that they do? Even if I told you, Job, would you be able to understand? And very quickly, Job realizes that he's in over his head. He's out of his league, because he, and his friends as well, have all made the mistake of thinking too little of God, of assuming God must be a certain way, a way that fits their needs and their expectations. Because now Job has seen God face to face. Now Job has a better understanding of who God actually is. He understands what he's done wrong. He realizes that this is who God is, and that God is on his side in this way, and he's comforted because he sees that this is who his God is, the God that he worships. So that's the answer to that. But what's the answer to our question, right? Why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? Why does God allow bad things to happen to us? Well, one answer to this question is one that makes sense, but maybe isn't one that we like, right? Because God is God. If his plans were completely comprehensible by you or by me, right? That means that God's ability is either our level or not much greater than our own. Why would you trust a God? Why would you worship a God who's only as smart or as strong as the average or maybe above average person? This is not the end of it. Because if God just said to us, when we ask him, why God, why? If he just said, I'm strong, shut up, sit down, do as I say, that would be pretty bad. I don't think any of us would be comforted in that. But that isn't the case. God doesn't simply say, okay, that's fine, you deal with it yourself, but he gives us the greatest assurance, right? He gives us himself, right? Christ Jesus, who suffered just like us, who sympathizes with us in our weaknesses, and who we can turn to because he understands us. We can say that God, because he's powerful, doesn't understand what we go through. But because Christ has been through what we've been through, and worse, he was betrayed by his friends. He was tortured and died on a cross, humiliated for the world to see. We know that God understands what it is that we're going through. And therefore, we can turn to him. We can trust him in whatever it is that we go through.